clearly a smart guy. I mean, I mean, the half of the stuff you just my brain would be like, no.
They make all these fancy words and try to confuse you. And then I started personally thinking like, I guess I got to go to school for this. And like, maybe he is smarter than me.
You can have these businesses that make money while you sleep.
You're listening to E-commerce Uncensored with Kevin Manel and Jason Caruso.
Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of E-commerce Uncensored. This is episode number 201. My name is Kevin Manel, and I'm here with
Jason Caruso.
Today we have another really great episode, interview for you guys, which is something that I'm really enjoying and something that we're going to do a lot of moving forward. And over the next couple of weeks, we have a few, really good names coming up. Some people who were on Shark Tank, and things like that. Some really people who have really grown really big on the e-commerce space. So I'm really excited. And, today was no different. This one was it's a not necessarily e-commerce physical product type stuff, but it was an online course creator, Jason Brown, who does the brownreport.com.
Yeah.
And it was a great interview. I really enjoyed meeting him, and he was a great guy.
Yeah, this was a bit of a surprise for me, a bit of a shocker to me, because, I didn't think he fit really, you guys as our listeners, but like, yeah, I really enjoyed this interview. I mean, he blew my mind with some of the things. And, when he was like, particularly when he was like, well, not everybody's like me. And everybody's like, not everybody's a millionaire. And I'm like, oh man, the guy's like a young guy,
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, we got into a lot of details about like his actual knowledge of the stock market too, which was not really what we usually talk about, obviously, but it was really interesting to me. And I think you guys will get a lot of, information
Value.
about that stuff. Yeah, a lot of value out of that stuff too. And then we just talked about his, his funnel and all the things he's got going on. So it was really cool. But we still have our Facebook, the Truth About Facebook ads course giveaway going on.
One more week.
Yeah, we're going to announce that on the next week episode, number 202. Just to remind you guys, you got to go over to our Instagram profile to check out exactly what you have to do to enter. It's just going to go out to one of our
$1,000 value for free.
Yeah.
You get it for free.
So you can go to instagram.com/ecommerceuncensored, or you can just go to the Instagram app, obviously, and just search e-commerce uncensored to find us, and you can get all the details on how you can enter to win that really cool giveaway. So without further ado, here is Jason Brown with thebrownreport.com. Hey, Jason, thank you so much for being on. How you doing today?
Hey man, I'm fantastic. And I'm excited to be here and share with your audience.
Yeah. I first heard you on a podcast, and I listened to it again today, and I didn't realize that it was actually like really old. So I'm really curious on it was actually a Smart Passive Income podcast, and it was like episode 200. So it was, I guess it must have been a couple years ago now. So
more than that, because I was on Pat's podcast as well. I was on 130 something. So mine was like 6 years ago.
It's been at least 2 years or 3, I think, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of the things you were talking about, I was like, oh, it made me realize that this is kind of old. So I'm really curious to kind of get an update on things. But first, why don't you just kind of talk about what you're doing right now, and we'll just get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who aren't familiar with me, I'm Jason Brown. I'm a stock market coach and options trader. I always say real money options trader, because some people trade, but they trade fake money or practice accounts. I trade, my real money. And pretty much I built an online university called Power Trades University, where I have courses that teach people about from beginner to like how the stock market works, how to read charts, all the way to option trading, advanced options, and advanced technical analysis. And some of the stuff that they see that think is all these blinking lines and lights that don't mean anything, I teach them how to read it. But more importantly, what I do, at least I think one of the most important things I do, is like I show people what I'm buying with my real money, and they get to follow along the journey. I'm explaining why I like this stock, why I don't, why I'm getting in, why I'm getting out, et cetera. And I think that's really, the meat of what I do, because it's like all the stuff taught in the course, they get to see it applied in real life. And so that's all inside of Power Trades University. So that's pretty much what I do.
That's interesting. I don't know the guy's name, and oh man, I wish I did. But I thought I saw somebody like on Mixergy. He was on an interview and he did something like this, and he like built like this $100 million business. I got to find out who this guy is and put the links in. I forgot his name, but he did exactly that. He basically just let everybody see what he was doing, and so that they knew that he wasn't just telling them theory or, whatever. This is like actually what I'm paying for and what I'm doing. That's pretty interesting. And it gives you some credibility, especially when you're using your own money. So I like that approach. I wish I could do that. I mean, ours is obviously, we do a lot of Facebook ads, and stuff like that. So ours isn't so much real time like that, but that's pretty awesome. And it's probably worked out well for you. I mean, it's probably gives you that authority, when things work out, right?
Yeah. And, it really helps people when it doesn't work out though. Cause like you'll see some of my stuff like, oh, I made 100,000. But there's sometimes where I'm like, I just lost 30,000. I just lost 50. And, but here's how I deal with it. Here's how I get back up on the horse. There's times where I've lost like 30, 40. And the very next trade I jump right in and I make 100,000. But like, if you get a mindset thing about it, like this isn't for me, I think it helps to show people that winning and losing is part of the game, no matter what game you're playing. And it's just like how you get back up on the horse or how you think about things. So equally important is the losses that I share too.
I think Kevin and I needed to hear that. We started a business last September, that in the first year did like just under 2 million, year one. And, we've really, struggled with going from 2 million, and this year trying to bring that to 4 million or trying to bring that to 10 million. And that's kind of something we're going through right now. It's like really frustrating for us because we built that business so quickly, and then it's kind of just like we're not seeing that same growth, and it's mentally really challenging for us, and it's really easy, especially me, because I'm like a Debbie Downer when it comes to this stuff. It's very easy just to want to give up. But I think that's a good lesson.
Yeah, I think it's so important to share, like you said, your failures. And that's kind of how we run things with our podcast, because we have a marketing agency, and we basically just talk about what we do from day to day. And sometimes the stories aren't so great and they're not so successful. And, I assume in your industry as well, just like it is in marketing, like you go on Facebook and you see all these gurus that just talk about how they just made $10,000, $100,000 in a week. And I'm sure there's these stock market people who are training people and doing these online courses that are just talking about how much success they've had. And I think it really gives you that connection with your audience that you're going to fail, especially in your industry, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just understanding like the definition of failure in our industry, because by default, if I was right on 100% of my investments, my goodness, guys, I'd be a billionaire, right? Like, I'd be
and you'd probably be in
out.
jail. You'd be in jail because they think there's something's going on,
right? Yeah, I mean, like, so it's just understanding that there's no way I got the crystal ball. I pick every stock right. I get in at the exact best price and time. It's just not realistic. So even just understanding that, you even reframe what failure is, right? Because losing money to me isn't even failure in my industry, because it's like everyone like, you don't want to lose more than you make, but big picture, you will lose some money. Like Warren Buffett buys some companies that don't work out. I remember he bought Heinz ketchup and they tanked. I remember he bought an airline company and like they all tanked. So like every play doesn't always turn out, especially in this industry. And the quicker you realize that, you don't even start counting that as failure. That's just like part of trading and investing. Like, everyone won't work out. So, and then to your point, building business, everything I tried in the business, I know we'll probably get into some of that, but everything I tried in the business didn't work out either. In fact, how I became quote unquote successful selling courses, when I released my first course at 50% off, it was only $100. And all the people who told me they would buy it, none of them bought it.
Oh man, classic, that is so classic.
Nobody bought it. And so what happened from there, because of that quote unquote failure, I didn't look at it as a failure. I was like, I know I got a great product. how do I market it? That's what led me into internet marketing, even in the first place. So we have to reframe what we think about as failure and just look at it like, okay, it's an opportunity to learn. Like you said, we're trying to go from 2 million to 4. It's like, you also get excited to put like the surgical mask on. It's like, okay, we about to do open heart surgery on the business. Like, what can we try? What can we test? What new platform? How do we reach new people? What new offer? And that kind of energizes you because you're like, okay, I'm in the lab again. I'm about to test some stuff and see what happens. And that's, you know, when you got that attitude and that energy about it, like that's when the magic happens, I find.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a little bit of a different situation, right? Like we're not the creator, we're the marketing arm of the business. So it makes it a little difficult for us to have that same kind of excitement because we don't really know exactly what kinds of offers we should be giving, right? Because we're not
I got you.
You know, so it's a little trickier. But yeah, I mean, we did really, really well that first year. But I really like that. And the interesting thing about it is that it applies to everything. Like you're so right. For example, right, I've been doing the internet marketing thing for 17 years, right? I just cracked the multi-million dollar, quote, like that, that 7-figure kind of thing. I mean, I've always been like right there, and wasting or losing time is much more painful than losing money, because money you could, I remember I was younger, a guy said to me, he's like, you can always make it, right? Like you can always make money. Even if you lose it and you're a hustler, you can always go find a way to make money, right? So you can't find time. Like I can't get those 17 years back, but they've taught me something. And I just think about, the light bulb, Edison found 10,000 ways that it didn't work. So it's a really good lesson, I think, that we all can kind of learn from, for sure.
Jason, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying what's cool too is I heard Jim Rome say this before, and it really taught me like how I look at time. It's like when you said like I got 17 years of marketing, and it's like, man, so now I just turned 2021, and like you get to bring 17 years of experience into 2021. It's like, dude, like that's beast mode. And then like in 2022, you get to bring 18 years of experience into it with you. It's like, I can't wait to see where you're going to be in like 20 years, when you're like, I got 40 years of marketing experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. We've had some other companies that we've helped. Like we have this one company, like we started working with, they were like doing like 1.5 and now they're like doing 6 or something like that. Don't quote me on those exact numbers. Kevin would know better than me, but we've really never, because we were an agency, we've really never done it for ourselves, right? Like we've always done it for other people. And it's exciting when you finally take what you've learned and you apply it and it actually works.
You know what, Jason, I think it's funny that Jason mentions the number of years, because I think we've been saying 17 years for about 3 years now. So
it's probably
it's like that number never changes. It's just always the one that we say. Speaking of experience, like what were you a stock market trader, or how did it all start? How did you get into this trading stuff?
Yeah. So the way I really got into trading and investing, I was 18 years old. I, come from super humble means in Detroit, Michigan, single parent household. My mother probably never made more than like 46,000. I'm guessing no more than 50 for sure. And so, we weren't even close to thinking about being rich. Humble house, bars on the window, drug houses on the streets. And so I, being from a single parent household and not, my dad passed when I was 2, I was just always aware of what other people had going on for them. Like I was like, why they have 2 parents and we don't? Why? I remember I went and visited this girl's house and I was like, oh, they don't have bars on their window. Like I thought everybody had bars. Right. And so I was just always aware. And so at a young age, I was like, well, why are people rich? And it was like, the stock market. So I was like, okay, when I get older, I'm going to get in the stock market. So what happened, funny story, I saved up some money for a moped, basically. And then instead of buying a moped at 18, I actually opened my first mutual fund account. So I went to a big bank and she basically said, why are you here? I said, I want to open a trading account. She said, well, what's your goal? I was like, I want to be rich. Like, is there another goal or reason?
Right.
Like, I thought that was the silliest question. Like, what other goal is there? And then she said, so you want aggressive funds, right? And I was like, yeah, that sounds right. I'm 18, aggressive. I could be aggressive. Basically, I came back 2 years later. I'm like 20, 21 or something like that. And basically went from 2,000 down to $700. And so I just, the type of person that I am, I was like, oh, I thought I'd come to you guys because you don't lose money. So I was like, I could have lost my own money. I didn't realize the professionals lose money. I could have lost my own money. Yeah, because I was mad because I lost the money and I still didn't understand how it worked. So I'm like, I could have lost my own money and at least got a lesson.
Right.
So I actually took the 700 out. I spent 200, probably bought some shoes or something to make me feel better. But I was working for Sprint PCS at the time, and I had that 500 left. Our stock was $5 a share. And so I was making $8 an hour on the weekend. So I made $64. And me and my cousin, we put together a spreadsheet that calculates taxes. So after taxes, I made about $50 working a Saturday. So I was like, if I can make 50 cents, if I could buy 100 shares and it moves 50 cents, I make $50, right? Not including tax or anything, just a straight $50. I was like, I won't have to work Saturday. And so I bought the stock at 5, it fell to 4. I was like, this doesn't work. What am I thinking? I can do this by myself. Then the stock went back up to 5. I'm like, yes, it's about to go to 550. I'll make that $50. Man, it went back down to $4. I'm like, is somebody like watching me? So then it went back up to 5, and I just had, just this epiphany. I was like, I'm going to get out at 5. When it falls to 4, I'm going to get in, then I'll get back out at 5. Sure enough, I got out at 5, broke even, fell to 4. I bought in, went back up. I got out and I made $100. And so then I said, so if I did that with $500, what if I had 5,000? I was like, what if I had 10,000? I was like, I would have been rich, right? Because I mean, young kids trying to make $50. I'm like, 10,000, I would have made like $1,000. I would have been rich. And so then I was like, well, how do I get $10,000? So because we qualified for financial aid, because we didn't make that much money, I was going to Wayne State. I applied for financial aid, but I also had a full ride academic scholarships. So I applied for financial aid because I knew they would double pay the account and I would get a refund. So they kicked me back a $10,000 refund. I took the $10,000, put it in the stock market. I actually grew it to $120,000 as like a 21-year-old kid. So then I was full-time trading for like 2-3 years, dropped out of college and everything, lost a lot of money, made it back. But then I was like, how do I get $1 million in the stock market? The same way I was trying to figure out how to get 10,000. And so I actually started climbing the corporate ladder, got a job. It's like making a 6-figure salary, but I was living off like 50,000 of it and they're trying to invest the rest. I was like, it's going to take me forever to get $1 million trading account. And so that's when I was like, I was part of someone else's program. And I was like, I wonder if people would pay me for my insights. Like, I'm right about the stocks. I can pick them. I know what I'm doing. And so I started giving it away for free, tweeting, blogging, et cetera, YouTubing. And then I launched my own program. And so really what took me into internet marketing was the desire to build a bigger trading account. So I thought I could speed up the process from working by starting my own business and just teaching it. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I get paid to do what I'm going to do anyway, which is look for stocks. And it was an industry I was excited about. And so that I kind of fell into internet marketing because then when I created that one course and nobody bought it, I had to figure out how to market it. And so that actually is how I got into investing, but how I got into teaching investing was really just a necessity to try to figure out how to grow my account bigger and make more money to invest.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had a business too that I have not a similar story in terms of the investment, but I had this business and I'm like, I could just go to Google and then give them some money and then I'm going to get 30 phone calls a day. And I had like $2,000 like saved up and I gave it to Google in 2 days and I was like, no phone calls. I'm like, yeah, this didn't work. Like, and I lost all my money.
Right.
And then like, so that was my start, long story short.
Now you're like, oh, I have to actually figure out how this works.
Yeah.
It's so funny how like It's just so funny how like the entrepreneurial brain works. Like in that story, it's just like it was constantly, how can you build this for yourself? Any kind of other person may have been like, yeah, I'll just see if I can get a job and I'll climb up the corporate ladder. But you were like, no, I got to do this myself. I got to figure out how this works and make money from it. And I think Jason and I are both that way. I was just like, we're going to figure this out, and you don't want to be relying on other people.
No, and that's a big thing. Now why don't you talk to us a little bit about those beginning days? Because when we got on this call, I heard numbers like I made 100 grand, I lost 30, I made another 100 grand. So those kind of numbers, why would you get into the internet marketing side and teach? Because for you to hit those kind of numbers in our world, it's going to take some time, right? It's going to take a lot of energy. It's going to take a lot of learning. I mean, I'm like I said, 17, 18, 19 years, whatever the hell the real number is, I'm still learning. I'm still watching videos. I'm still trying to test things. I still don't know. Like, I'm guessing you're like a Russell Brunson guy, right? Russ, you're like the ClickFunnels.
I'm familiar with Russell. Yeah, I don't
Right.
use ClickFunnels, but I'm familiar with Russell.
Right. Well, I see on and we'll get into this, but I see, missing link. I'm guessing that was secret number 1, secret number 2, secret number 3. You have missing link number 1, missing link number 2. So I immediately figured that you were Russell, but that guy, the knowledge that dude has, man. I was an athlete growing up, and so I haven't been like an entrepreneur my entire life, but just the stuff that dude knows, it's just mind boggling to me. And it's just, so the point is, if you're doing $100,000 in a day or 3 days or 5 days or whatever it is, what made you say like, all right, I want to maybe not trade that, but why am I going to get into this whole other world where I'm going to have to now start from scratch? Even though it is fun, even though creating offers can be interesting, it's very frustrating, right? So
yeah, it can be frustrating, but so what made me initially get into the internet marketing world was it always comes back to the same thing. I was trying to figure out how could I get more money to invest. So I always say like I'm an investor first, a marketer second. I'm not a marketer first. Like I wasn't here to build this empire of like Instagram followers and like I don't really care about most of that stuff. I only care about if I can get more money into the investing machine. So that was and partially, and I'll say partially, and explain the second part why that partially is still my motivation. It's always to take money from the business, put it in the investment, put it in the stock market. That was my initial reason for getting into this space. Now, my reason has morphed a little bit because as I started to see other people teaching this stuff, and I was like, how come they didn't explain it like that? How come they left that out? Or how come they don't show this? I'm like, that's poor screen quality. Why wouldn't they just share their like? So then I kind of got this thing. It's like, man, I'm gonna teach people the way I wish I could learn. Like the company I bought a first program for, they had DVDs, and then we had to fly out for a seminar. And I was like, I put it all on a credit card, so I kind of went in debt. And then I was like, man, what if people could just learn this from at home in their living room or in their bedroom? Like the cost of entry was low. I don't have a building, employees. I can just record it. And so that just inspired me to teach it the way that I thought it should be taught. Because I saw these people selling courses that were like, they weren't the greatest to me. And I felt bad for the industry. And I felt bad for people like me on the other end who would buy that course and still be confused. And so the other half was just like, can I help people? And can I teach it the way I needed to hear it? Being a young Black kid from Detroit, I was like, why didn't they just say this is how it works? I literally used to get pissed. I'm like, they make all these fancy words and try to confuse you. And then I started personally thinking like, I guess I got to go to school for this. And like, maybe he is smarter than me, And then I figured it out. I'm like, oh, they don't even know how it works. They're just salespeople. Like that's a whole nother story. Once you figure out like the financial experts aren't even financial experts, they're just salespeople. I was like, I just gotta share how it really works. So I really got fired up about teaching people how it really works. And that's what keeps me going today. The other thing too, I want to mention and not like sweep it under the rug. It's important to have multiple streams of income though too, right? So even though I make money from the stock market, you still want to have multiple streams of income. I used to always be like, well, why would I do real estate? Because I could take that money, buy some stock, do this. I'm now starting to get to a point where we're making so much from the business, from the stock market. It's like some of that real estate is slow money, but it's like it's smart to just diversify.
Long.
So it's also important to have multiple streams and just kind of knowing where you're at life when it's important to take on a different stream, even if it's slower or maybe different than what you're used to.
Yeah, but real estate, and I'm not in it, and I'd love to be at some point, but it's slow, but it's long money. And I play golf with a bunch of guys who are self-made multi-millionaires, like 50-60 million dollar guys, right? One guy is 43 years old, 44 years old, right? And he probably has like 200-300 units. Guy like smokes cigars all week, plays golf 3 or 4 times. I mean, he just collects money on the first, and it's predictable. It comes in every single month. He doesn't have to worry, and that's like real wealth, right? Like Kevin and I, and I'm sure you on some level, it's like you're working like all the time to make this money, whether it's learning what a good stock is to pick this month or this whatever it is, or where when you're in real estate, it's just like the first comes and people just give you money, and it's a very stable type business. And that's what I see from my guys, like my friends who all have these big real estate businesses, and they're making money, and they go away, and the guy, it doesn't matter, they're still making that money. So that's
Yeah. So I look at each industry differently. So like I look at real estate and I apply a real estate model in my investing. So for example, I was looking at a 3-unit, there's 3 unit apartment complex or multifamily in Royal Oak, Michigan here. And I was looking to buy, it was like $392,000. And so I'm like, okay, if we just buy it cash and refinance and pull the cash out. So it costs about 90,000 so that you don't have to pay PMI. I did the numbers. Basically, I would net like $1,500 a month in rent, right? And obviously I'd be covering my mortgage, and then 1,500 I would get net, not including any repairs, etc. Well, in the stock market, I just bought 1,000 shares of a ticker symbol called Plug. They actually build all these electric chargers that people charge their electric cars in, which we all know is on the rise. I bought 1,000 shares at about $60, so $60,000. I can sell what's called an out of the money option, meaning someone can buy it from me at $90. I bought it at 60. I'll sell it to you at 90 if it gets there. That's called renting your stock out. I get $4,000 in rent every 30 days if the stock doesn't go to $90. So for me, I'm like, do I tie up 90,000 in Royal Oak, have a mortgage? What if one of the tenants don't pay? I got roof repairs, etc. Or I can come over here, buy 1,000 shares of a stock, $60,000, so it's 30,000 less than I was going to tie up over there. No mortgage, no tenants, and I get almost triple the rental income. And if it goes up to 90, they have to cash me out at 90 when I bought it at 60. So I also get a $30,000 parachute to exit if it goes up to 90. So I look at real estate, I'm like, how long would it take me to do that? Right? It's like 15 years until they pay it, so it just, I believe in real estate. I like to apply that strategy in the stock market, but then I also know that it's powerful to just have some units, have something physically that you own, that you can sell, that you can rent out. And so it's not good or bad. It's not either or. It's both and. It's just about having multiple streams of income. I know you said like with our business we work a lot. In my business, I built it part-time. I built my business to $500,000 when I was working a full-time job. And the reason I built it like that is because when I went full-time, I didn't want to work it full-time. So even till this day, I only do a live webinar every Monday from 8 to 10 for our members. So outside of that, I have no other obligations to the program. The courses are already recorded, so they're on autopilot. It's just, so I built it so that I don't feel like I have to work all the time. And then I'm also building it to where we're looking to bring other teachers in under our brand. So that way, even if I'm not teaching it, the university will still move on. So I think it's so important that people understand, are they building an influencer business or are they building like a business? Because most people are influencers or course creators, but like they are the product. And so there is no exit strategy. There is no, if they go out and get hit by a bus, it's just like, okay, it's over. And so sometimes we look at people who make a lot of money in digital course creating, but really they're kind of self-employed. And so it's important to distinguish the two. And it's okay to be a high paid self-employed. You just need to be making sure you're taking that money that you're getting when you're high paid and moving it over into some stuff that's more passive and residual type income. So it's just, when we start to go down the path of understanding real business, investment, self-employed versus a real business owner, et cetera. But I think it's important for people to understand those distinctions, because you're right. Some people get confused and think they have a business when they don't. They're just self-employed, and they're just highly paid self-employed.
Yeah, like that's something, Kevin and I, Kevin, this is a conversation you and I get into a lot. I am 150% of the time trying to figure out ways that I could take my hand off of a business and have it make me money. And Kevin comes from a world of the agency, right? He owned the agency before I got involved in it, where your clients basically own your time. And he doesn't, Kevin, he's really lately in the last year or so starting to realize that you can have these businesses that make money while you sleep. Kevin always traded his time for money, always, right? So this is a conversation we have a lot, Kevin and I, and you're 100% correct. Like, our agency doesn't make us money when we're not working. And so it's a very difficult business. It's a business I want to get out of as quickly as I can. The only thing is it's Kevin's baby. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit of a tug and war.
I mean, there's a lot of factors that go in. It's not just like a money that goes in your pocket. Like you said, you could have made $1,500 a month. It's also like all the headaches that are going to come along with certain things. And that's kind of like what happens with the agency is like, okay, we could go get this other client. We could probably put money into getting more clients, but then, there's going to be a headache there. Most likely it's going to be difficult to get going. And would my time be better spent maybe focusing on this over here? And I think that sounds like kind of part of your decision-making process too, when you're deciding whether I should buy a stock or whether I should buy this piece of property that's going to be a pain in the ass.
But Jason, the thing is like when I heard you say that, like it makes so much sense to me. Like I can put my money into the market and make $4,000, but in real estate, you have next to zero, close to zero chance of losing any money, right? Like for the most part. I mean, maybe a tenant leaves, maybe you're not making that 1,500 anymore. But in the market, there is a chance you're going to lose. Because if there isn't, I would stop everything that I'm doing right now and I'm going to buy your course. And then I'm going to get out of the internet marketing business and I'm going to do what you do. But there is always that chance, right? That you lose money in the market. So, and maybe in that scenario you were explaining, maybe it's a win-win on all angles, but I'm guessing that there's a chance that you could lose, right? Somewhere.
So there's always a chance you can lose money. I would never come on here and say like, no, there's no way you can lose. What I will say is there are ways that you can structure it to be very similar to any other investment, right? So for example, you buy a house, you rent it out. What's going to be your problem? Your problem is, what if the tenant doesn't pay, right? So you have some risk there. What if the tenant burns down the house? So you're like, okay, I'm going to buy insurance on the house or have them have renter's insurance, et cetera, right? I'm going to research the neighborhood, make sure it's an up and coming neighborhood. So make sure the prices either stay stable or go higher. You bring that same energy over into the stock market. It's like, okay, I'm going to research the company and make sure it's in the neighborhood that's growing. For example, electric vehicles, Tesla, NIO, LI Audio, these are in a growing neighborhood. Electric vehicles aren't going to go backwards. They're only going to keep progressing forward until almost every automaker transforms from gasoline to electric. So it's like, did I research the neighborhood? Okay. Then there's something called put options where you can buy insurance. So if the stock market totally goes against you, it basically replaces the value of all your stocks. So just like you buy insurance on the house, you can buy insurance. And then you're like, well, what if the tenant just doesn't pay? It's like, well, what if the CEO says something bad? Or like Facebook, when they had the Cambridge Analytical and whatever, Cambridge scandal with the data, there is the same risk. But if it's a good company in a good neighborhood, you got the right insurance, eventually that company is going to come back the same way that that property value is going to come back. So it's not more or less risky. It's just a different type of risk. And most people haven't been trained to buy insurance on their stock. They haven't been trained to research companies as like they would a neighborhood, et cetera. So it's very, very similar. It's very similar, to be honest. So it's actually not as risky as you think. I mean, Facebook's company just doesn't wake up tomorrow and it goes to zero. General Motors just doesn't wake up and go to zero tomorrow. Tesla, the same way a house, just because the economy had a downturn or a pandemic, certain houses don't just be like, well, this neighborhood's going to zero. It's like, no, people still need a place to live. They still need a place for shelter. Same thing. People still need a car to drive. People still need stocks or a platform to get on and live stream from, like Zoom and different things like that. So it's more about just kind of changing the thinking and say, how do I apply that same research skills to individual companies? And then how do I also, what insurance strategies, what risk strategies do I need to learn how to mitigate for? If you talk to a apartment owner, it's like, what's the risk strategy of mitigating for a tenant not paying? Oh, we only take a credit score of at least this, and they show us two W-2 statements or their tax returns. Like, okay, then in the stock market, what's the risk? I only take companies who are at doing this much in revenue. I look at the quarterly earnings for the last 2 years and make sure that they're growing at least. So it's very, very similar. It's just a different field that you're applying the research in, which is what makes me more comfortable with the stock market versus, houses all the time. But it's so similar, you'd be surprised. It's just we're not taught to think about it like that.
I find this investor stuff so interesting, and Jason knows, like, I'm more of an investor than he is. Like, I'm the guy who's putting money away in mutual funds and IRAs every month because I'm thinking about when I'm 65 and all this stuff. And I was a pretty decent, well, I wouldn't say decent, terrible gambler when I was in college. I lost a bunch of money, and once I got into business, it was like, okay, this is pointless. And the next step for me was like the stock market. This is my gambling, going to be my gambling now. So I just went out and kind of like bought a few stocks, had no idea what I was doing. So the stuff that you're saying is like totally over my head right now, but it feels like it really interests me. And like every time we have these conversations about these course creators, last week we had a guy who does piano. Like, I feel like I want to go out and buy your course now. I want to learn the secrets here.
Yeah, me too. I'm feeling the same way. This is not good. So why don't you talk to us a little bit, because that's fascinating stuff, man. And you clearly a smart guy. I mean, I mean, the half of the stuff you just my brain would be like, no, it ain't working.
Like, Jason, can I just pay you to do that? What
yeah,
would it cost you to
just
do that for?
I just want my money to work for me. I don't really want to work for it anymore. So why don't we get now into your course, because I think that's the most relevant for our audience. I think the backstory is awesome, and I think that people probably are gonna want to get into your course after hearing those things that you're saying. Me and Kevin being two of them. But why don't you talk to us a little bit about how it's doing? What I'm really interested in hearing about the webinars. I know you said you do one a week. Are you doing webinars to bring people into the business? Are you doing webinars for your current students? What exactly, can you explain that a little bit to us, and explain to us like how you're going out and getting people into your course?
Yeah. So I'll talk about the course and I'll go backwards and talk about how we're getting people to the program. So inside the course, I teach investing by lifestyle. So I do not sit at a computer and look at charts all day. That's one of the biggest misconceptions. And so I don't want my students doing that. So I teach exactly what I do. So I look at stocks every Monday for about 2 hours from 8 to 10 o'clock at night. And why do I do it at 8 o'clock? Because the market closes at 4, then after hours goes from 4 to about 8 o'clock. So from 8 on, like, all the dust has settled, all the numbers trades have changed hands, et cetera. So you get the final numbers. So I look from 8 to 10 and say, what am I interested in investing in this upcoming week, if anything at all? And just because I'm looking at what's coming from this week does not mean I'm in and out every day. My trades usually last anywhere from 6 months, 3 months, sometimes 12 months. And so I look from 8 to 10 on what I'm going to buy on Monday from 8 to 10. That's the webinar where my members get to see what I'm doing. I don't come back live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I might pop in and give an update, say, well, what we found Monday is working. I like it. I'm going to add to it. But I'm not doing that every day because that's not my lifestyle. I don't look at stocks every single day. So as long as you subscribe to learning that method, then we'll do business. If someone says, I want to day trade, I want to be in here every day, it's like, well, I'm the wrong person for you because I don't want to be in here every day. So that's why we look for stocks from 8 to 10. And then usually it takes about 3 to 6 months for it to mature, do what we think it's going to do. Sometimes it does it faster, but that's when you can go off and build your business, go skiing, go live your life, go look at rental properties, learn another skill, whatever the case may be. So I'm all about building a lifestyle. The courses are recorded because by the time you get to the live session, I don't stop and explain what's a stock, what's a chart. That's what the courses is for. So you can use what's a quarterly report? I walk through what's a quarterly report, how to look at earnings, how to look at revenue. What does this mean? Is it trending up or down? That way, when we get to the live session, it's time to just put into motion what we've already taught into the courses. And so that's why typically I only work on Monday.
So I'm sorry, Jason. So just so I'm clear, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but so that process that you do from 8 to 10 at night on Monday, you go live on a webinar and show people exactly what you're doing every Monday
for my
night?
Paid members. Yes.
For your paid members. Okay, yes. That's really cool.
Yes, I show them exactly like, hey, I'm looking to buy this tomorrow. I like it. Here's why. I don't just say, oh, I like this, I'm buying it tomorrow. I'm like, guys, here's why I like electric vehicles. Here's why I like plug, right? All these cars are going to need somewhere to charge into. The same way there's gas stations on every corner, there's going to be electric chargers on every corner. It's already starting to happen. You see them at Walmart, right? So I'm explaining like the why, and then here's where I think the industry can go because we're not there yet, et cetera. Here's why I like it. Here's why I like it at this price. I'm looking to get in tomorrow, or whenever it does this, I'm looking to buy on the pullback. So we're explaining all of that. And then we have courses that if you don't understand what I'm talking about, that's where you can spend the rest of the week going through the self-study courses. Then I also have a high-level mastermind, which is completely sold out. It's a $15,000 6-month elite mastermind for people who are really just trying to go super next level with their investments. Most of the people are in there, high earners, different caliber of people that, we're putting 100,000 plus maybe into a trade. Not everybody, but I'm just saying that's what happens kind of in the high level mastermind. So that's another portion of the program that I have where people are just really trying to get it. Now, how do I get people to come find me, find the company?
Wait, don't go anywhere. I got a question.
Oh, okay.
I got a question. Number one, what is the lower tier cost to get in?
So the lower tier, so the courses themselves, you can buy individually anywhere from $297 all the way up to $3,000. And then if you want the coaching program, at least at this time, I always like to say at this time because our prices typically go up, not down. But at this time, you can do the monthly payment plan, which is $1,000 to join and $200 a month, or it's anywhere between $2,500 to $3,500 for the year, depending on which one you pick. So that's the range.
Okay, that's my first question. Second question is, could I essentially get into your course and then just buy the same shit you buy? Like you say, like, I'm going to buy this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy it. Like, I'm going to buy this. Okay, I'm going to buy it. Like, can I basically just copy everything you're doing?
So that's what I won't say that's what most people do. That is the benefit of seeing what a real trader is doing with their money. However, the way it's set up, I encourage people, they still have to make their own decision because me as a millionaire, I take a different risk sometimes than you might take as 100,000 there or a $50,000 W-2 worker. So I will give the trade why I'm doing it. You might have to modify it. Like today, I just bought $60,000 worth of stock and didn't think about it. I just hit the button. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna rent this out, get about $4,000 in rental income. You might have a $5,000 portfolio and you're like, there's no way I could do that. So I might say, well, if you're at this level, you might just want to buy one option contract, which might cost you $1,200, right? So I'll give like the modified version of what I'm doing, but you still have to make your own decision. I don't build it so that people feel like I don't know why he did it, but I'm buying it because then I would feel responsible if people don't know how to get in, don't get out. So that's why I teach them how it works. But yes, do some people probably just swipe the card and be like, I'm just gonna follow what he do. Um, I'm sure some people do that, but that's not how I sell it.
That would be me. That would be me. I just would. All right, I wouldn't buy $60,000 worth, but I'll do like 15, 20 or whatever.
You must still get people who like bitch. Like you always get customers who are going to complain, like, "Oh, you told me to buy this. I didn't make any money." Do you still get that?
No, because I don't tell them what to buy. I share what I'm buying. So everyone still has to make their own decisions. I'm like, here's why I like it. I'll also look for lower price versions to try to accommodate different people's bank account in the forum and in the live webinars. But I never am telling you, hey, go buy this tomorrow. I make it very clear. I don't straddle the line of being a financial planner or a licensed investor or whatever that can give you financial advice. I try to steer very clear of telling you exactly what you should do. But I will say, if I were you and I had that much money and I could take this amount of risk, here's the trade I would take. You still have to determine if you're going to do it. We also teach people how to do what's called paper trading. So we say, hey, follow the trades and paper trade and see what would have happened had you put real money down. Most of the times, once people see what would have happened, like, oh my God, I would have made that much, then they're confident to put their real money down. And they have also learned how to get in and how to get out. So we're really trying to teach people how to fish, because I'm not a money manager. So like, you're like, we got 100,000. Can you just manage it for us? The answer would be no. I am looking at creating a hedge fund down the road to where if you are of a certain net worth, you can buy into the fund, but I don't want that headache right this moment, but that's something I'm looking at. But for now, I really want people to understand what they're doing. Even in my webinar, I say, if you want to get rich quick, this isn't for you. If you're not willing to spend at least 2 hours a week, this isn't for you. And there's a whole other list, but those are the two that's like top of my mind, because I'm not selling the dream on my webinar. Like, you don't even have to look at the charts. You don't have to know anything. Just follow me. That is not my pitch.
All right. Now, how do you get people in the course? What kind of marketing, what platforms you're using? Are you using a webinar? Are you using a lead magnet? What exactly are you doing, if anything?
So there's a few different ways where people come into find me, find the program. So I'm very big on YouTube. Reason being is just because it makes sense to me. I used to try to fit, a square peg into a round hole and just pound the table with Facebook and Instagram. But I was just like, I want to go where people are looking for what I have, right? Facebook, someone else, I'm like, I got to run an ad. I got to interrupt their day. They had Starbucks. They had work just scrolling. I got to have them register for a webinar. They forgot they registered for the webinar. I was like, I'm going to go where people are looking to watch a 1-hour video or a 20-minute video. So primarily I teach on YouTube. I answer the most common questions. What's a stock? How to buy, how to sell, how to open an account. Most people find me through some of the most helpful videos. I'm like, oh my God, I've been looking forever. How do you even buy? What's an account look like? How do you work Robinhood, Webull, E-Trade? And so I do a lot of tutorials teaching people first, because I like for them to see, like, this is the type of learning that you'll get by, doing business with me. And then I just, hey, if you like this, you want to learn more, I got a free webinar, or I have a free PDF if you want to learn more. So I give them more tips in the PDF. And I just bring them in my world by not telling them how good I am, but just showing them that really I can teach you. So we have a webinar, we have a PDF, we have obviously an email list. We have a podcast where I talk about some of the mistakes that traders make. If you're a beginner, what can you expect? I just really try to educate. That's my biggest thing, is try to educate, because that was one of my gripes with the industry, is people wanted to talk fancy and make them seem more important and confuse you, because what I found out was, if they confuse you, you can say, well, can I just turn my money over to you? And that's a great tactic if you're a financial planner. And that's a great tactic if you get paid 3% of all the money you bring to, Fidelity or whoever you're with. Then the goal is to make a person feel like it's more complicated. My goal was always to make the average person feel like, this makes sense. I can do this. And so in doing that, they come into my world and they're like, maybe I should sign up for this program. So that's literally it.
Is the YouTube stuff you do, is it mostly organic from you posting regularly, or do you run YouTube ads as well?
So it's a combination of both, right? So we have organic. We spend about probably like 10,000. I don't know if it's 10,000 right now. Maybe it's 7,000. But we spend anywhere between 7 to 10,000 on YouTube ads every single month. And
we spend 90,000 on Facebook a month.
We were just talking about YouTube today. We're like we got to try. Or actually, maybe it was last night. We were texting back and forth. I was like, we got to get on those YouTube ads. It's just having the proper video. Now, I'm curious too. Like, what is the best performing YouTube video ad that you use? Is it because I've seen your sales video. I entered your email list, and I've seen this sales video of you kind of walking around your house. I think outside. I saw that one. Is that the same kind of video ad you use on YouTube?
So we use YouTube a couple different ways. So one way we use YouTube is just for awareness, right? So it's like, let's take a testimonial, let's take a case study. Let's just take our top tutorials and let's just show people that we exist and we can teach. So that's one way that we use YouTube. The second way we use YouTube is to register for a webinar. But if we can get those people to watch some of our free content first, then we typically like to retarget and say, come check out the webinar, because now they're more likely to register. Like, oh yeah, my man taught me how to open my account, or that's because they might watch one video and then click away. So if we retarget them with the webinar, then they'll come back and say, oh, I remember this guy, and click, and we get a higher webinar registration rate. Sometimes we run the webinar just straight on YouTube, no registration. And so it's just like, just watch the webinar. That becomes just the number game. We know the more people that we can show it to, the law of large numbers, the more people that'll buy. And typically people on YouTube are there for a specific reason. Like Facebook, I got to figure out, are you interested in the stock market? You like the stock market page? Are you sure? YouTube is like, no, they typed in how to trade stocks, how to buy this, or how to invest. And so there's no confusion what they're looking for. And if they're my avatar or whatever the case may be, the only thing is, can I show them that I personally can teach them and that our program is for them? So it's less hoops to overcome, if you will, because I already know that's what they're interested in and they're looking to learn it. Now I just got to let them know if I'm their guide. Maybe they don't like my voice. Maybe they don't like that I'm Black. Maybe they don't like that I'm young. Maybe they want to learn Forex. That's okay. But they can make that immediate decision by looking at my thumbnail that I'm young, I'm Black, or whatever, right? Or that it's not about Forex. So then I pay less per click because the thumbnail does all the advertising for me. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like this false click, or I registered and this really wasn't what I wanted to learn, or something else. So it's just really a beautiful platform, in my opinion, for like cutting through the noise and just getting straight to your ideal avatar.
Do you run those yourself, or do you have like a marketing team that you use?
So I learned to run them myself, and then we have our team in-house runs them now, but they were taught by me. So
yeah, I guess it's always better for you to know how it works and then show someone, because it's really you're the brand, you're everything behind this. So that's cool.
And Jay, if you don't mind, like, it's like, you have a question, Kev?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, how big is your course? Everybody wants to know numbers. Everybody wants to know, like, revenue. If you don't mind sharing whatever you're comfortable sharing, can you give us like a timeline and like how long you've been doing it, like where you were when you started and like kind of where you're at now. I mean, because I think a lot of people, especially me, before I ever created my own multi-million-dollar course / subscription, I felt like things were so complicated. But then, like, when you finally do it and you realize that the simpler you are and the bigger you go on the stuff that's working, usually is going to get, it's usually the right formula, right? So I think people like hearing that. It's much simpler than we make it out to be in the beginning. So
yeah, it's simple, but it's not simple. It's only simple once you figure out and go through some trials and tribulations of what people want. So just to give you an example, when I first started, so I started the business 7 years ago. I think it was 2013. So the first 2 years, I was just figuring out, like, what's a blog? Like, how do you use WordPress? And like, what is this? And so first 2 years was really just trying to figure it out. I remember I ordered my first video light set. I ordered the light box that for people who take pictures and not for people who do video. So like the light box was wrong. I had to send that back, pay the restocking fee. So first 2 years was really just figuring it out. Like, how does this work? Once I came out the gate, I actually started with a membership. It was like $30 a month. And I was like, I just want to teach people how I'm trading options. Well, people would buy the course and then or the membership, and they would cancel literally after a month or two. And I started surveying people and saying, how come why are you canceling? Because I never got more than 6 members a month, which was like $180. I was putting all these hours in. I did the math. I was like, I'll make like $4 an hour. And I cried. Then I shut the business down because I was like, this is a waste of time. And then I reopened it. But when I surveyed people, they said, this seems to be over my head. I don't get it. And I was like, well, I'm an options trader. I don't teach the beginning stuff. And so after having a breakdown, I was like, I'm going to write this beginner's course that everybody says they want. And so I shut the membership down, worked on that beginner's course that nobody bought. So nobody bought it. But then I knew I had a good product. So I had to figure out how to market it, which led me to YouTube. And then what happened was people started buying the foundations course. People started saying, well, do you teach options? I'm like, yes, because that's really what I like to do. So then I wrote my second course, which is called Options Explained. People got through the options course, and lo and behold, what do you think they asked me? Do you have anything where we can follow your trades? I'm like, yes. That was the first thing I launched that people were canceling. So I had to come back around to do the membership. So then I had 2 courses and the membership, but this time I think we were $59.99. And so then we're doing that. Then I, got around some other marketers like we do. And then someone's like, why don't you just give the courses away in the memberships? I'm like, oh, that's going to tank my revenue if I do that, but let's try it. So then we tried just upping the membership price and getting all the courses. And then it was like, that was horrible because people would pay $99 a month and then go through all the stuff, then cancel. And now I lost the $300, $400, $500 in course revenue. So there was all this figuring out. And so eventually it led us to where we are today, where there's $1,000 join fee to join, and then it's $200 a month, right? And then there's so much information, there's no way that you can go through it quickly and leave. But even if you do, we got our $1,000, so it doesn't matter. Or you pay for the year. But more importantly, once you're in there, you start to realize quickly the true value is the community and seeing what I'm buying every week and what I'm selling every week. And so people end up staying. So that was like the evolution of getting back to our pricing and being what it is today. And then we launched our high level mastermind because there's things that I do with my money that I can't share with some of the people who have a $5,000 account, et cetera. And so I launched my high level mastermind for people who have, a little bit different means financially. And we can kind of talk about some next level stuff, taxes, et cetera. How you move that money out in the rental property, or how you do the rental property strategy in the stock market, et cetera. Even though I teach it in my course, but like the moves I'm making, sometimes you can't share that with the regular level. And so that's how the pricing and everything is structured. So to this day, we do over $1 million. We did over $1 million last year, even during the pandemic. Most of it's profit because there's no overhead. We got like our team, and then there's like internet servers and stuff like that. So it's the beauty of running an online business. We have over 4,000 people that buy just courses. Some people just buy courses. They don't want coaching, training, or maybe they just want to test me out. So we still have a robust course selling business where some people just buy the course and that's it, and they just want to go off on their own. But where we focus our time is on membership and then our high level mastermind. So any other numbers, I'm more than happy to share, or what software. We use Infusionsoft for our CRM. We use we're actually getting ready to do something with ActiveCampaign because we want a second email server. But we have community for text messaging. We could talk about,
so you don't just create a bunch of videos and put them up and people buy it? That's not how it works?
No, it seems like you're a custom platform. So our platform, it's not like you can go buy it. We're not on Kajabi or anything. We built out a custom platform. We had coders code it. So Infusionsoft, and that software talks to each other to grant access, and if they don't pay, it removes access. So I mean, it's a pretty custom system, but yeah, you can't. No, we just didn't throw it up. This should work.
Well, that seems like you created like a cool system where you're really just documenting what you're doing anyway as a stock trader, right? At this point.
Yeah, that's why it's like perfect, because I don't feel stressed, because I'm like getting paid to do what I would do anyway.
That's cool. That's a unique thing, because like I can't just go on Facebook and start like building Facebook ads in front of people, because they got to get reviewed, and it takes time for them to start working, like that kind of stuff. But
and then you don't want to just share what you just built for another customer either. That
yeah,
might be
well,
weird.
the good thing is, like, we, like I said, we've slowed down a little bit, because fourth quarter for us isn't that great in our space, but between $80,000 and like $90,000 a month on Facebook ads. And I'm able to share that because it's mine, right? Like that, it's Kevin and ours, Kevin and my other partner. So that's fine. I think we did $1 million just on Facebook, which was pretty cool for us to see, when you do like the year and you see, $1 million or whatever it is. It's pretty cool. The other $1 million we made really from email. And so that's like a big part of it. And so I just want to ask you, like, when you do these webinars, right? Because I'm looking to get into, Kevin and I talk about this, and people talk about, oh, webinars are dead. Nobody, yada. But all the people I know that are selling high ticket stuff all use webinars. And my question is, for anybody who may be getting into webinars, what does it look like in terms of the revenue split from, people buying on the webinar to your follow-up sequence selling them? Because what I think a lot of marketers, the mistake they make, and it's even we fall into this trap, is like everybody wants to make that money on the front end. Everybody wants to be like profitable on the front end. Everybody wants to spend $1 and make 10 back. But as our buddy Russell Brunson says, if you could just spend $1 and get $1 back, you don't have a budget anymore, right? You could just spend as much money as you want. So how does that look in your business with webinars? So how's that look?
Yeah, he calls that the break-even funnel, which we subscribe to the same doctrine, but I think what makes me different is I'm not a marketer, so I'm an investor and a businessman. So I don't put so much energy into like just the webinar has to work. So like the webinar is like one thing that works, right? And then it's like there's the PDF download, the freebie that works. Then there's then we do like a Q&A for everyone who's on the webinar every 30 days and be like, let's take all those hundreds of people who went to the webinar and just have more questions or didn't buy. So it's just like, let's just talk to people. We even will allow, I'll tell my team, like we'll pay commission, like we'll book calls, like call us. You got questions, you're not sure, call us. So like, we don't really it's not like, oh, they either buy or don't on the webinar and we're done with them. We look at so many different ways to bring in clientele, because it's all money. Like it's all a business, right? Even I just joined this organization it's just like a millionaire organization or whatever. And like, just even getting into, people who have companies who have 1,000 employees, and it's like, they don't know anything about investing. Like, let's do a licensing deal. I mean, like, I'm always thinking like big picture. I'm not just an internet marketer. Like, how's my funnel doing? It's like, how do I license my courses out to these companies who don't have a retirement plan and they're small businesses or something? How else can we find other, can we partner with a school, right? Can they offer this as a curriculum or after school? So I just think we did a session for like a church that had like, I don't know, a couple hundred members, and it was like $300 per member or something like that. And we gave them more like $1,000 package. So like, I look at it as a business, not just like webinar or nothing. So I don't fully know our webinar numbers, because every week when we do our reports, it's more like big picture, how much did we make? What are the multiple different streams? Then we also know that there's a lag in the webinar. There's also a lag in YouTube video. Some people watch it and then they go back and binge watch all our old stuff. Then they finally buy. So sometimes we run 6-month report, 90-day reports, 30-day reports. So it's, for us, it's just not as straightforward as just like the webinar accounts for this much. It's like, well, the webinar led them back to the YouTube videos. They binge watched it, then went to the podcast, then they finally bought 9 months later. So it's one big machine for us. I don't know if that answers your question.
No. I mean, it's what I like about that answer is that, you know, as marketers and quote unquote gurus, they like to sell you the tips, tactics, and techniques of what they're doing. At the end of the day, you know, I built my Facebook course the same way. Like I didn't tell you like, should you use campaign budget optimization or ad set budget optimization? I say like, look, this is when I use this one. This is when I use this one. And it allowed me to teach the course from a place of like, what did I need to know before I knew this? And I teach how to create like an irresistible offer, right? That's another thing. It's like, if you have a good offer, it's like your ads don't need to really be that good. And you don't really need to be good at Facebook if you have an irresistible offer. These are the kind of things that I teach. And that's the standpoint that I take, is like exactly that. It's like, look, let's forget about like the nuts and the little like nooks and crannies of running Facebook ads. Let's talk about why people buy. And then you could take that strategy and you can use it on YouTube, and then you can use it on Pinterest, and then you can use it on Facebook, and they all work the same, because at the end of the day, they're people just buying stuff. And so I get that. It's a great question. I was just curious because, you know, I do, you know, we do what we do good or do well, and we just really haven't done any webinar stuff. And I'm just interested in it because it just seems like what all these high ticket people are doing.
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand the anatomy of a webinar, and what the point of it is: to build know, like, and trust factor, right? And then it's to create an offer. And so when you look at why even do a webinar, we're not just doing it for fun. People are going to say, who are you? So that's why the first portion is like, hey, I'm Jason Brown. Here's who I am. Here's why I'm qualified to teach. Do I trust you? I'm like, I have a family. Here I am at home with my, like, I'm not just some internet guy. Like, I'm a real human, right? So it's like, do you trust me, right? Do you know me? Do you like me? Do you trust me? And it's like, all right, let's teach them something. I've proven I can teach you something. Did you know that before you joined today? Okay, if you like this, here's my thing, right? If you want to join me. So it's like, it's designed to do all of the things multiple ads are going to do. So you're like, I'm going to create an awareness ad. Then I'm going to create a testimonial ad. Well, the webinar just kind of brings that all together in one place. If the people have enough time to spend a good hour with you, you're spending 15 minutes building trust, getting them to like you, teaching them something, 15 minutes kind of basically making an offer. That's it. If I could do that in 4 ads, which we do sometimes, we run 4 different ads. But if you can get them in one place, because that's what they're asking themselves before they get out their credit card. Like, do I know this guy? Do I trust this guy? Do I like this guy? Right? He knows what he's talking about, but he's arrogant or he's an a-hole, right? So it's like, that's what they're trying to figure out. And then it's like, has he helped anyone else? Can he help me? Well, he did teach me something. That was kind of slick. I like this guy. Let's go for it, right? I mean, that's it. That's really what you're trying to do. And if you understand that, then you'll have a good webinar. But if you go into it like, how do I get these people and trick them, and not trick them, but what's the secret to get them to buy? It's like, there is no secret. I want you to know me. I want you to like me. I want you to trust me. I want to prove to you I can help you. Here's my offer. If you go in with that heart, that genuineness, you don't come off sleazy and like a marketer or a salesperson. And even at the end of our webinar, we say, you know, like, and if this isn't for you, like, if I'm not the guy, go find somebody who is, because I truly want people to go learn the stock market. Even if I'm not their guy, I'm never like, this is your last chance, you know, do you care about your family? I'm like, look, you obviously spent an hour with us because it's interesting in you. If not now, then when? If not me, then who? Like go find somebody who's gonna like, and I genuinely want them to go find the help they need. And I think if you can do that in a webinar, you're gonna be fine. If you're looking for the super secret, and if you don't click the button in 3 minutes, you'll never see this again. Like, dude, nobody wants to do business with you like that, in my opinion. So, but does it work for some people? I'm sure, but that's not the business I wanted to build. So that's how we use webinars.
I think it's such an important lesson that you just said, is like, just the more stuff you just put out into the universe, even though you're not going to put up a video on Facebook and someone's just going to put their credit card or give you some money for it. And I think for us, like, this podcast is a really prime example of that. I'm sure you probably experienced the same thing with your website before with your podcast, but prior to our podcast, when we had our agency, and just like people would call us and want us to do work for them, and it would be like a struggle. There'd be this constant like sales call. We have to have calls with the owner, this, that, back and forth. We got to write a proposal. It's got to have this in it and that in it. After we started our podcast and people started calling us from our podcast, it would take one phone call.
Right. Then there's no sale. It's just like, hey, I want to work with you guys. Here's money. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because you've gained that know, like, and trust, like you just talked about, what you're doing in your webinar. And it's so important, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Jay, we would sit here, man, all day and talk with you, but I want to respect your time. And is there anything else that you'd like to say about, what you've built or what you're doing? Maybe share some of your links. Because this is like fascinating to me. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. You think of things from like a very analytical, strategical type business place. And it's interesting to me because like I'm like the complete opposite. Like I just like kind of fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy, but it's interesting like how you think about hedging things and I'm fascinated by it because it's just not me. So personally, I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I could keep you all day, but obviously it's not the right thing to do. So anything you want to share, you want to talk about before you go?
Yeah, I would just say to the people listening, like, I was on the other end of the headphones at one point. I'm like, these people make how much? Like, what do they do? I'll never forget the podcast I listened to on Pat's was Shane and Jocelyn Sams, which is so funny to be friends with the people I used to look up to. I mean, I still look up to people, but like, it's so funny to be peers with these people. But I remember like he was a football coach and his wife was a teacher.
You remember them? Sam and Jocelyn, right?
Dude, yes.
Yeah. They did like $100K a month on like a librarian product.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And so that was the one for me that was like, if they're making that with that, I know I can make money with stock trade and stuff. And so my point is, I try to share as much as I can because I once was on the other side of the headphones. But more importantly, I want people to realize like the biggest difference between us and where they're at or whatever the case may be is a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. I think sometimes we listen to these podcasts or you look at like a Russell Brunson or someone, and what they don't tell you is that just like Nike can create the ugliest shoe. If they slap a swoosh on the side of that, it will fly off the shelf. They'll just call it Yeezys or something, or Adidas, call it Yeezys, right? It could be the ugliest shoe ever. It'll fly off the shelf. People don't understand how much brand recognition, how much your email list has been built up over the years to where when they be like, we launched a webinar and we sold out the first day. Here's the secret to the webinar. It's like, no, the secret was you've been building the audience for 10 years who've been following you. And by the time you hit the send button, they're so sold on you that they would buy almost anything that you would send out. And people make it seem like we just created this new tiny offer, $29, and it's the new seat. It's like, no, that person has helped so many people, so many testimonials. These people have a list of hundreds of thousands that if 10% of the list by 10,000 people give them $100, they make 100,000 just like that. And that's what people on the other end don't understand sometimes when they send their email out to their list and 5 people buy it, right? Or 1 person buy it off their list of 50. And they're like, I'm a failure. I don't know if I can do this. And so my message would just be spend time really trying to help people and not trying to sell people. and realize that the longer you're in this game, like the law of reciprocity, the law of large numbers will start to work in your favor. And then you'll start to see some of those crazy successes and some of those crazy numbers, but you won't ever get there if you quit. So that's what I would tell people. And then as far as learning more about me, if that's the right time to tell them,
sure.
they can find me at thebrownreport.com. I don't like to give Instagram handles and YouTube and Facebook. If you just come straight to thebrownreport.com, it's all there. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram handle, email list, my free webinar PDF. Everything's just at the hub at thebrownreport.com.
Love it, man.
Now we're recording this on Tuesday. So last night you had your 8 to 10 webinar. Can you give us some insider tips from last night?
It was Martin Luther King Day. So we didn't have it. But I mean, you're getting what I bought. This morning, I bought 1,000 shares of Plug. That was one of the stocks that we talked about. Inside of our group, we talked about CRM, which is Salesforce. They make cloud sales software. That's another stock that we're in right now. And then we're also in a company called LI, which is Li Automotive, which is a Chinese electric vehicle maker. They make it's called this sedan that auto charges while you're driving it. It's pretty slick. So those are kind of like the three stocks that we're heavily looking at right now. And there's always more, but those are like the top three. But I always say, be careful, because if you don't know why we're buying it or how to buy it, you could get in trouble. But those are the top three that we're looking at. And Plug is up $8 today. CRM's up $362. Lee is up $275. So I mean, our account's looking good.
Wow. I wish we would have done this yesterday.
Yeah.
That would have been a much better strategy for us. But no, man, this has been great. It's just so interesting. And I think you're right. Like, we talk a lot about there is some sensationalism in, hey, we did 2 million in 1 year, our first year. But like the rest of the story is like, for 17 years, I didn't break, 600,000 or 700,000, right? Like there is another part of the story. And, it took me 17 years to really figure out what it took to build a multi-million-dollar. And it's not just me. I have Kevin, I have our other partner, but Kevin's been doing it for a long time, and we all have our little piece to this business. And another thing is, it's much easier doing it with 3 people than it is 1 person, right? Like we can move a lot faster. Like Kevin can do something, I can do something else, our other partner does something else. So it's all of that, right? But
absolutely. Right. And just people need to understand that everybody has their own path. Some people do it solo. Some people do it as a team. Some people take 17 years. I've seen people come out the gate with $100,000 launch and then they flop after that, but it's more about building something long-term. And if you stay in the game long enough, you don't get worse at something, you get better. There's nobody I know that does something every day or every week for a long period of time and actually gets worse at it.
No. And that's, and you just
been my golf game a little bit.
No,
the
you
more
stink.
I play, I do get worse a little bit.
You stink. Yeah. That's our next product. I used to be a professional golfer. So that's our next product. I hope, if we get this damn simulator. But that's awesome. And I forgot somebody who said this, but they said, you just have to accept that there's a process. Like that's what once you just accept there is a process, the rest of it doesn't really matter, right? Like just accept there's a process. I like to tell people, like, day 1 of your email list, like you can't rush from day 1 to day, 365, right? Like on day 1, you're going to have nobody. On day 365, you may have 20,000. The only thing you did differently besides send, you sent the same send button you hit day 1 or 365. It's the same thing. It's just that now you have more people, so there is no substitute for time. You just can't rush that. So I love where you went with that, man.
Yeah,
you can. I'll say this real quick. When you think about college, right? Like you never go to college and be like, if I don't graduate in 3 weeks, I'm not going to be a lawyer. You know,
Right.
if I don't get this done in a month, doctor, forget about it. Right. You go in knowing it's going to take 4 years. Then you go in saying, well, it takes some people more than 4 years, and I'm okay with that. You even go in, going to school, taking a break from school, going back after having kids, and like, but when we come over in the business, that's the only place where we're like, if this doesn't work in 6 months or a year, I'm just done with it. But we don't do that in any other area of our life, especially when it comes to college or education or school. And then I'll say this too. In college, if you get to your junior year and you flunk a class, what do most people do? They just retake the
Take it
class.
again.
They take it 2, 3, 4 times. They're like, once I pass this, then it's my last year. Then But in our business, it'd be like, that ad didn't work. I don't know if this is for me.
The mindset.
You know, I don't know if I'm cut out to do this. And you're like, what?
Yeah, my buddy told me, it's like, you know, he's a multi-millionaire construction guy. He's like, dude, he's like, I didn't make $1 for 10 years. He's like, yeah, I made a little bit of money. Like I had an income, but he's like, I didn't make any real money for 10 years. He's like, he told me this like 10 years ago. He told me like when I first started getting into business, he's like, so if you want to get into business because you want to be rich in the next couple of years, he's like, do something else.
Do something else. Go play the lottery. Maybe it'll work out.
Well, yeah, man, this was enjoyable.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. This has been awful. Everybody go check out thebrownreport.com ASAP.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks a lot. Another really great guy. Like I said at the beginning, he's really cool. I'm glad that we got to meet him and we actually, you know, connected with him on Facebook, and he actually gave us one of his invites to the Clubhouse.
Both of us.
Yeah, which
Ryan McKenzie, if you're listening, I don't need your help anymore.
Which I was on last night. I really don't understand what to do on it yet, but I went into some room and I heard people talking. I'm not really. Do you have any idea what it is yet?
To be honest with you, last night I was a little bit on I was looking for cigars, so I was like off on a tangent last night. I really didn't sit around at all. And then I had a cigar, and then I kind of relaxed and went to sleep. But
that was really cool of him. Really great guy. We're even thinking about, you know, getting into his course. You know, some of that stuff he's talking about, like investing and, you know, having you know, your money work for you in several different ways, is something we love. And I think this is just another way.
I think that was a really good episode for you, Manel.
Yeah,
because you know, you need to come to the dark side, buddy.
I'm slowly moving over.
Yeah, you're slowly moving over.
I'll tell you what. After you texted me last night and you were like, you want to get in on that? You want to get into that course? I thought about it and I was like, man, I would love that, just to have, you know, the real estate aspect. It's like we talked about in the podcast. It's very similar. You know, you have this thing that just brings in money to you, but there is that headache involved with it, and it seems like it's a little bit less with investments and stocks.
Well, your brain for the last, you've been, you know, you equate like hard work and success with the amount of hours you put in, and it's not necessarily the case. You know, you talk to all these high, these high, what's the word? These guys that do a lot, right? Like, they're not doing the work, right? They're the visionary. They're the ones that are coming up with the ideas, and their team is putting it into work. So, you can't, there's no, you're going to have a glass ceiling if you try to do everything and you just try to pound away, right? You have to learn how to use resources so that you're not sitting in front of that computer for 20 hours a day. And I think it's a really good lesson. I think it's, Kev, like, we can talk about this later, but I think it's a really good lesson for you to learn that, not every successful, wealthy, well-off person is sitting in front of a computer for 20 hours a day and equating that to hard work.
Yeah. And it's hard for me to think that there could be something that could be necessarily easy. And I don't feel like anything's really easy, but it's really hard because I think about it as like, okay, because when I said that to you, I was like, yeah, it's a good idea. Maybe we should do it. I'm like, well, do I really want to put in the time to learn something new? Is it going to be just another headache for me? And it's hard for me to realize that maybe it's not. Maybe it's just going to be something that's just going to work for me.
And not only that, I mean, it's just, it's something new. It's something else to learn. I mean, like there's one thing that you and I do, and that, we work. And I think, I mean, I don't know how efficiently all the time, but, I don't mind putting in a couple hours a week trying to learn this stuff. It's something new. It's interesting to me. And to be honest with you, my entire career has been like, these small incremental like growth, right? Like I'm starting to realize that, when you have money, right, you have to grow exponentially in order for it to really make an impact on your life, right? Like we're at a level right now, Kevin, that we need to really grow a lot for it to feel like we've grown a lot, but now going from where we are now to the next step is going to take a lot. And I was just thinking that maybe this is something that we can look into.
Just afraid the more and more online course creators we interview, the more courses I'm going to end up in. And I'm going to end up doing none of them because I want to learn the piano too.
All right, guys. Well, hope you guys enjoy that. Don't forget the truth about Facebook ads. Go to ecommerceuncensored.com/truth. Go to our Instagram page to see how you can be a part of that. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Thank you guys again. This has been episode 201. As always, you can check us out at ecommerceuncensored.com. And we'll talk to you guys real soon.